Welcome to this edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joe Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media at the University of Central Missouri, and it is my pleasure every week to get to visit with some of our alumni to talk to them about what they're up to these days, how the program helped them get there. I talk to people who graduated in digital media, some who graduated in communication studies, others who graduated with their master's degree. Today, we have a 2-for-1 special. Meet Brooke and Bailey Gerecke. They graduated from UCM with their degrees in communication studies. They are now back in their hometown of Blue Springs in the school district working in education. Brooke and Bailey, great to have you on the show. How are you?
We're great.
Yeah, really excited to be here and doing this.
Well, I'm excited to have you. This is our first 2-for-1, so it's nice to get you guys on.
I love that we were the first.
That worked out great. It's a family affair. We're getting into the holidays. You got to do everything with your family, right?
Absolutely.
So what led y'all to UCM? Did one of you influence the other, or did you both have the same plan, or what?
Yeah,
I'll let you take this one.
I knew I was going to UCM. I knew that's where I wanted to go. It's just far enough away from Blue Springs that it was like I had my freedom, but I could always come home. And then she toyed with the idea of not coming, even though I knew in the end she was going to choose UCM because I was going there. I think you toyed with Rockhurst, you toyed with a bunch of them.
Yeah, like Truman State, toyed with the idea of even Columbia for a second. But Brooke was right. We wanted to be far enough away, but still close enough to home so we could come back whenever we wanted to. And I think that I originally thought that I would like the separateness of like not like being away from my twin after being together every day for 18 years. But at the end
beyond
of the day,
that,
I
beyond
literally
the 18
beyond
years.
that, like way beyond that. But I toured UCM and it just kind of like sealed the deal for me. And I was like, it was smaller class sizes. The staff was amazing, and I was just it sealed the deal. I loved being in Warrensburg.
Well, that's awesome. We're glad that you found your way here. Tell us about now what led you where you are today. Bailey, let's start with you. We'll go alphabetical.
Yeah, so I went into UCM as a theater education major. And I did it for like a year, and it was okay, and I kind of liked
Tell
it.
them how we decided that, because we fought over that
Well,
major.
we fought over the major because we always swore we would never be the same major. And so I really feel like it came down to a game of rock, paper, scissors or something. And so I took that major, and she was like, well, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just going to do communications. And I saw Brooke would come home every single day and talk about these classes she was taking, and they just genuinely sounded so interesting to me. And I was like, man, I wish I was doing something like that. And so I worked at a school that summer and like had this huge panic that maybe I shouldn't be a teacher, and went to UCM that afternoon in the summer and changed my major to communications. And it was the best decision I ever made. That the department was unmatched, and the classes were actual things that I was interested in and that I thought were going to help me in my life. And then so I got my degree in communications, and I loved it so much. And then I worked social media for a little bit, some freelance social media during COVID because we graduated straight into the pandemic. So it was hard to get a job. And then Blue Springs High School called me, and they had like a focus position open, like a study hall, kind of a credit recovery class. And so I got my foot in the door back into education, and I loved it there. And I was like, crap, maybe I was supposed to be a teacher. And then I thought about like, I loved the communication process. I loved speech and debate when I was in high school. I loved theater when I was in high school. And then that year, the middle school position opened, and I applied having no teaching experience or degree or anything. And I got it. And they hired me on my provisional. And then I went back to UCM and I got my master's in teaching. So I truly didn't leave for long, and I had a great time the whole entire time. And so now I'm teaching.
Well,
so I never thought that. I guess I originally thought I was going to be a teacher, and then I got scared and I somehow ended up back in the classroom.
I was going to say, I'm glad you kind of took us through that whole journey, because I was like, when you started saying that you went in for theater education and you're like, I don't want to be a teacher, I'm thinking, well, that didn't work out so well. You ended up being a teacher.
It really did. And like my mom, even at the beginning, tried to convince me, like she was like, you don't want to be in education. Like it doesn't make a lot of money. And I was like, okay, well, maybe she's right. Like maybe I mean, my mom's always right about everything. And so I was like, maybe she was right about this. And I think people always ask like if I regret not taking that traditional teacher route. And I truly don't, because I think the things that I got from the comm department set me up for so much more success than if I would have gone the traditional teaching route.
Okay, well, excellent. Brooke, what about you?
Yeah, I was in comm from the start and I loved it. I remember I was in like comm 101 or wherever the intro was with Jack. And I was like, this is the place to be. I was like, maybe I didn't want to be a teacher. And then graduated into the well, I ended up having to get a minor. So I had to get public relations and women's gender sexuality studies. And I was like, wow, this is a great group of majors I have going on here. I was super
Surely
excited.
I'm going to find something.
Yeah, surely I was going to find something. And we were doing the internship with the softball team, social media wise. And I was like, oh, this is like my jam. And then COVID happened and we never came back after spring break. So I went back to working. We worked before and after school at elementary schools in Blue Springs, where we would take care of kids like when their parents would go to work. And I was like, dang, I'm stuck in this education again. And I was like, man, do I like it? And I didn't think I did. And then Blue Springs High School was like, there was an opening at the freshman center. We used to have like a 9th grade center. And they asked me if I wanted to come do ISD, which is in-school detention. And I was terrified because I was like, I never had a tardy or a detention as a student. And I took it because Bailey was like, well, maybe you should get your master's in teaching as well, because it seems that we were meant to be teachers. And I was a year behind her. Mm-hmm. And because I wasn't sure yet. But Bailey was like, it's easy, I promise. Like, it wasn't hard. And like, I think it was also really helpful to be back at UCM and we knew some of the professors and that how great the program was. So I think I only joined like a semester after you because I'm graduating this weekend with my master's. And so I worked ISD for 2 years and then they took down the freshman center and we all got transferred to Blue Springs High School. And they put me in, what was it called?
Credit recovery.
Credit recovery. It was like an online curriculum. So I was teaching literally every subject.
So kind of the same start I had.
Yeah. And it was the same position that they made for her. And then I was like devastated because all my friends were graduating and I just needed to like find a position to teach in so they would give me my degree. And out of nowhere, like the debate position at Blue Springs High School became available. And that was my dream job. And I could not believe that it was happening for me. And they waited a long time to tell me I got the position. Like, it was like, I interviewed like 3 times. They made me keep coming in. And it was probably 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And they finally called and they're like, you got it. And but the huge thing they were like, it was like, what sold them is that I had that comm background. Is that because along with teaching debate, I also have to teach communication 1, which is a college level class. And they're like, well, you know what you're doing. And I was like, well, yeah. And I just like took like, I literally emailed like all my old professors from UCM and were like, what lesson plans do you have for me? Like, what can I use? And so many of them reached out with things to do. So they said like what really sold it was just, and for both of us was our communication skills that we really picked up from UCM.
Well, Brooke, I'm gonna start with you on this one. So you end up going back to your alma mater, and back to your old high school, and now you're a teacher and a coach there. I guess you really can go home again.
Yeah, I sure do. There's no place like it.
What's it like? Are you teaching with a lot of the teachers that you had, or is it some of them retire? Or
some of them have retired, but a lot of them are still there. Like, so I teach debate, and that goes along with speech or forensics. And the speech coach was actually my theater teacher in high school. So it's odd to like, we're equals now. And like all the fine arts department is pretty much the same people. And all the principals knew me from when I was in high school. So it was a really easy sell. I was like, you remember me? I was a good kid.
And Blue Springs is very big on being homegrown. So
yeah, they love that.
It's a great department of people who know the Blue Springs way.
Yeah. So, and it's really because she teaches at the middle school and her school feeds into my school. So her students become my students. And that's really confusing for them.
So do you call them by their first name, or is it Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. or whoever they were when you were a student?
When I'm her assistant coach and director.
Well, he's asking about like when you see like Mr. Kriegel. Do you
call no, that's really my teachers. I've gotten used to calling them by their first names, but like I had to go observe the other day and I went to my junior year English teacher's class and I was like, hi, Mr. Kriegel. And he was like, hi, Miss Gerecke. He was like, you can call me my name. And I was like, I can't. Like,
it's hard, isn't it? When I came back here, Barbara Baker was one of my professors and I kept calling her Dr. Baker and she goes, Joe, we're colleagues now. I'm Barbara. I'm like, no, you're not.
No, you never will be. Like, I'm just like, I remember like, how can I called you for years. And even like, they're like, you know, when you graduate, call me my first name. I was like, no. I feel like it's so weird. Like we had a staff meeting today. I'm sitting in the PAC where I performed for years, and I'm like, these are my colleagues. These these are not we're equals. I look at my principal, who's my high school principal, and I'm like, we know each other.
It's a different world.
It
Well,
is.
Bailey,
It's good.
Bailey, I'm really interested in the challenge you've got. Not
Yeah.
only are you a middle school teacher, which,
God
takes
bless.
takes a special breed. You're coaching, I've got to go through your list here.
Yeah.
Theater, speech and debate, and broadcasting. First of
Correct.
all, I'm as impressed as can be that you have a broadcasting program at the middle
Yeah.
school, because you have
Yeah.
two great ones at your high schools there in Blue
Yes.
Springs. But then you're doing it in middle school along with theater and speech and debate.
Yeah. Yeah, there is truly no rest for the wicked at the middle school level. I always say that it's one of those things that I'm stressed out every single day, but I truly believe that there is not a luckier teacher in the building than I am. Getting to see these students take not just what we learned in the classroom, but get to extend it out to competing, or when we post our GTV episodes, or when they get to be on the stage for the musical. So it is a challenge having all of those preps, but they're all communication based skills. And so I know that it's something that this generation struggles with. And so I'm glad that I get to help this really awkward age group kind of be a little less awkward when they get out into the world.
That's a great way of looking at that.
Yeah.
So you obviously were involved in a lot of these things when you were in school.
Yes.
Tell me about your college experiences, and Bailey, we'll start with you on this one. What were you involved in that really helped you? Because we talk about it's great to be involved in the classroom, but you
Yeah.
need some activities out beyond that. So what else did you do in high school or in college that helped get you ready for your job?
In college, I was a part of the theater department, even though I wasn't a major. I assistant directed Footloose when I was there for my sophomore year. We did a lot with the Pulse program. It was brand new when we were there. The Women Gender Studies had come up with this, and Brooke got me into that. We interned with the softball team for a little bit. Am I missing it?
I started the Com Ambassadors program with Wendy.
Yeah, the Com Ambassadors program. We were both in that.
And then I was there for a year, and then I was like, hey, you know who'd be really good on it? My sister.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Com Ambassadors was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, we loved that. It was like,
I don't even know if they still have that anymore, do they?
I don't know, do they?
We don't. We need to talk about bringing that back.
Woo! It was great. It was just like a group of, I think it was like 10 of us, and we
Yeah.
just got together. We had study sessions for different classes, and that was really fun to be with the 10 of us, and we all really cared about that program.
Yeah.
What drives you both? What motivates you? Is it sibling rivalry? Is it just you love what you're doing? What is it that motivates you?
I just genuinely think we love what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate to be back where we grew up, and that we somehow ended up right doing the things we love.
Yeah.
Speech and debate was a huge part of our life in high school, and it was kind of our identity. So it was odd to go to college and not do it. We weren't a part of, what was it called?
The Talking Mules.
We weren't a part of it because we just felt like we needed a break from it. So we never really saw ourselves coming back to it. So it's crazy how it all just fell in our laps. But I think as teachers, it's just, we get to see the kids from the day, sixth grade, we meet Bailey's kids, and then Bailey gets to follow them now all the way to high school, because she's my assistant coach at the high school. And so it's just so wonderful to see them grow from these little sixth graders, pretty much fifth graders still, into these adults.
And then I also think just knowing, like Brooke said, we're back in our district doing the same things we did that made us who we are. And so seeing those sixth graders come in who were literally me, I can see myself in all of them, and helping guide them to what I know that they would be successful in, because I wish that I would have had that too when I was their age. So being able to help these kids find a passion that they didn't even know existed. And like I said, it is hard work, and you hear so much about the teacher shortage and teachers burning out and teachers quitting and stuff like that.
We feel it.
And I feel inside, I do feel that when I come home at night and I'm exhausted and stuff, but at the end of the day, I can't ever imagine quitting it because of how much I love it. And I did not think I would say that about being a teacher, but I adore it. And I'm so excited to go to work every single day and work with those really weird kids, and that are my weird kids, and I love them.
Well, I'm so glad that those weird kids have you.
Yeah.
That your students have a couple of people there that, they can go from one Gerecke to the other, and
Literally.
they have that place. They have that safe space where they can learn and they can grow and they can discover who they are, and that they have teachers like you that really are going to push them and love on them and encourage them. So,
Yes.
man, I'm glad you're there doing it. So,
Yeah. Thank
last
you.
question I have for you then is number one, for current UCM students, what advice would you have? And number two, if you had students at Blue Springs that are thinking, I think I might want to go to UCM and study digital media or communication studies, or, just go to UCM, what would you tell them?
For current students, I would say don't be afraid to get involved. I think it's like feels so, I don't know, weird to be involved in like a college because you feel like you're an adult. But like it's fun to join a club and it's fun to find community within your major. Like even if it's just like we became really good friends with like a core 6 of us and we would just go study or like hang out. And those like, yeah, they were our class friends, but like they became our friends. So just like even if it's just like a little group and like a person if you've taken a ton of classes with, like get exchange numbers and like help each other. Like I just think it's so important to find community, especially in the comm department. Like it's very easy to, like, you end up seeing, like, if you find someone freshman year, like you'll probably see them the next 4 years in some class. So find that community like really quick, and then classes seem like a breeze and more comfortable.
Yeah. I think that my big advice is to take the classes that sound weird or sound scary.
Yes.
Like I remember hearing the class improving listening abilities and being like, that sounds ridiculous. I was like, what do you I know how to listen and I know I'm a good listener. And I wasn't. And I wasn't a good listener. And Carol Benton put me
sorry,
into
what'd
like
you say?
I right?
We're hearing each other.
Carol put me into like a reality check and like a tailspin with that class. And or even like the Dale Carnegie class, and like that, like nobody knew what that was, but we all took it because like everyone was hyping it up and everything. But just taking those classes that sound weird or sound scary, because I mean the professors there are amazing, and you're gonna learn the craziest things about yourself that you never even thought about.
Yeah.
So just take those weird, scary sounding classes.
Yeah, even if they have the 4,000 in front of them, they're not
yeah,
scared.
even if they have like the big numbers in front of them, it's okay. Like they're okay. They're still fun.
We're building you to those big numbers. I mean, you don't start at the big numbers.
I remember being a junior and seeing like the 4,000. I was like, no,
I'll
I'm
never
not
get
ready.
there. I'll never get there.
They're really not scary.
Yeah.
What about for a prospective student?
I always tell my kids, like, especially when I talk to Brooke's kids at the high school, that the first major I always suggest to every kid is communications, even though I'm a teacher and everything, is the communication, because there is so many things you can build with communication. And, you hear that a lot from people on social media and stuff about how communication is kind of like the all big major, like you cover all your majors.
It's like a joke. Yeah,
it's like a joke almost, that like you can do anything with communication, but like you really can. And like as a graduate from the program, you can do anything with communications. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's just a good foot in the door. And then you can build off of the skills you learn there and find your niches, whether that's like a sport, broadcasting, or if it's film studies, or if it's theater or something like that. Like communication really is the first stepping stone to just learning about communication, because it's the number one thing you do in life. You have to communicate with people.
Yeah,
you do.
I tell my students, because a lot of them are into like communications or speech theater education or something like that, and for some reason they always like want to go to like the big schools, like the ones that you hear, like the bigger universities. And I'm like, those are cool, but like all my friends who went to those, like they were in lecture halls every day. And I just couldn't imagine until their
professors didn't know their name.
Yeah, they were just like a number, like their student ID. And I remember like it wasn't until like a lot of their junior years, when it was like time to do like their emphasis classes, that they were in smaller groups. When UCM, like I think I was in a lecture class for like one gen ed. Yeah, maybe. And I tell them all the time, I was like, if you want that one-on-one experience, which I know you all do because you're theater kids that need attention, then maybe it's best to go to a school with smaller class sizes. Not like you'll get like an average high school class is about the size of like a UCM class.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, this is like the time to like go to a school like and UCM's a great school, and I think it's just slept on because it feels close to them. They're like, we want to leave. And I'm like, but there's something so special about, especially Blue Springs kids, like being so close to home. So then I would say, then you can come back and judge our tournament or come see our shows. Yeah, come back and do this. But I always encourage, like, they're always like throwing out the bigger names. And I'm like, have you considered UCM? And like, I even think like the website's one of my most visited course book. Like, and I pull it up, I'm like, what do you want to do? And then I pull it up for them. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. UCM has it. Or like if they don't know what they want to do and they're like, I'm going to go and undecided. I was like, how about you start in communications? Yeah. Because there's 3 emphases that they can go in through there and find their way later on. But at least you know that you're good at public speaking and you like it. So let's start in communications. Yeah. And you've got a lot of them to go. Yeah.
But like my biggest thing is always just like the professors there and like the one-on-one with them. Because I mean, I was in Wendy Geiger's office every single week, just being like, what should I do next? Or like anything like that. Or like I still talk to Carol and we still talk to Hillary and everything like that. So Eric knew some, like we still talk to all of them because we created that bond. I just don't know with those bigger universities, how many people can say that?
Yeah.
It's awfully tough when you get there with like you say, those big lecture halls. So
yeah, I just can imagine.
I'm so glad y'all found your footing here. I'm so glad that, again, that your students have you as their teachers. I'm so proud of the direction y'all are going. Thank you for representing. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. We appreciate it. This was so great.
I'm glad we were able to get this work in.
Yes.
And thanks all of you for tuning in today. Remember, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel through the UCM Media Network. That's youtube.com/UCMMN. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager for creating our theme music. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.